one time I was talking to Greg Glassman, a couple years back, and he said to me, he's like, what I have realized, and I asked him what it was. He said, a lot of people come up to me and say, like, CrossFit changed my life. But the people that say CrossFit saved my life are the people in recovery.
We're here, best hour of their day. Scott Strode, founder of the Phoenix. I'm excited to chat with you because this is something that I think more CrossFit affiliates need to jump into. And I think the reason I'm passionate about it is I opened my affiliate, Albany CrossFit, in 2007. And I believe that was either prior to you founding the Phoenix or at least before it was kind of as well known as it is today. What year did you found?
We actually launched the Phoenix in 2006, and
Okay,
but we didn't find our way to CrossFit for some time. We did mostly outdoor activities and climbing and hiking and cycling, triathlon, that sort of thing, and then CrossFit worked its way in over time.
Yeah, and I want to hear all about how you made that connection with CrossFit. But early on, I recognized in my community, I was getting a lot of people in recovery.
Yeah.
Very early on, I was like, and I didn't, I'm not super familiar with recovery, but I realized like there's something to this. There's something to the fact that they're all coming here and they're not leaving.
Yeah.
Right? They're just sticking around, and they all seem to kind of know each other, which I'm sure is part of like the whole like meetings and all that, but it was, somewhat anonymous, but like anything else with the CrossFit world, you become friendly with everybody. They tell you their story and you want to hear it. So before we go into like, I want to ask you a lot about that. Like why are CrossFits the ideal space for people in recovery? But please, throughout this, correct me when I misspeak, because I want to learn a little bit too, to make sure, and I'm going to let you know right now, I will misspeak. But correct me, because I think it's important too for, we've had like, for example, when we have adaptive athletes on, we want to hear from them like, oh, it's not scaling, it's modifying. Like, let us learn the vernacular so we can better help. But let's take a step before that, if you don't mind. Tell me about your journey, because I'm assuming if you found something like this, you have a story to go into it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's not uncommon, as you know, right? And a lot of nonprofits are started by people with lived experience around the same issue. And I'm no different. I mean, I got into recovery a little over 25 years ago.
Wow. And but you seem to be like 30, so I don't think you got that heavy into things at 5 years old. You're a little older than you look on this screen
younger
here.
than I should have been when I jumped into that pool. Right. So, got sober in Boston, and I thought I was the only sober guy in Boston at the time, and found my way actually to a boxing gym. And there were a couple sober guys there. They taught me about the sport. I then started to coach other folks that were new to it. And what I found really was community that was focused on something else, people that believed in me, and an activity where it sort of fostered and developed my own intrinsic strength. And that's what helped me stay sober, ultimately led me to triathlon and climbing and a bunch of other things that were a little better for your head. And that eventually turned into CrossFit sort of popping up on our radar.
Speaking of boxing, off topic, which I do often, I got down a slap fighting rabbit hole last night on Instagram, and I was like, this stuff is not good they're just like getting knocked out multiple times. I was like, this is CTE waiting to happen.
I don't think that's my kind of game.
Yeah. If you're going to get into boxing, Boston's the place to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And these were some old, sort of Irish fighters with flat noses, that were teaching me about the sport, but a couple of them were sober. And what I realized is I was actually starting to heal some self-esteem wounds I had from some early childhood trauma I experienced. And every time I got in the gym and got in the ring, and then I started coaching, I started to feel that I had this value to others, and that I was sort of deserving and worthy of love and all this stuff that healed a lot of the wounds that were the primary driver of my addiction. And so
All right.
years later, wanted to share that with others.
Yeah. Again, just tell me that's a faux pas. But what were you in recovery for?
Yeah, I mean, I was in recovery from both drugs and alcohol, and mostly sort of hard drugs. I didn't get into opiates; it wasn't really on the scene at that time. But I pretty much used whatever I could, and I was relatively functional addict and alcoholic. I would go to work, but I would go on benders that I'd have to call in sick. I would sort of just once I started, I couldn't put the lid back on the bottle, and that's just the way my alcoholism showed up in my addiction. And what I realized is that it started sort of stripping away a lot of the dreams I had about who I could be in life. And you realize you're like planning your life around when you can party next, or somewhere where you don't have to drive so you can get drunk, or whatever it is. Like you start to lose opportunities, and I wanted to make a change.
So, on that note, can something positive become an addiction? Like, could somebody be? Because when you're saying that, I'm like, well, I try to go to sleep early so I can work out, and I do
Yeah.
kind of think about my food all day long. Like, could that be? Could something positive become negative?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's the bigger issue, which I think many of us are facing, not just folks that could utilize Phoenix, but I think many of us seek our emotional well being externally. It's hard to find it from within us, and sometimes it's like, what do we look like? How much weight do we clean and jerk? How many likes do we have? How many followers? Do I make this much money? Do I drive this car? That kind of thing. But I think ultimately, if we can find that love and acceptance of ourselves here, it allows us to have that love and acceptance of others. And I think so. All of us, including Phoenix, honestly, when you first come to Phoenix, it's essentially free programs to anyone who's 48 hours clean and sober. You get turned on to yoga or climbing or hiking or triathlon or cycling, whatever it is, by
CrossFit.
CrossFit, by somebody who has a passion for that very thing. So we are trading in some ways what we used to use to cope for something much more positive. The difference in your sort of I wouldn't say addiction, but your focus on these things is it intrinsically is building you up at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. I when I raced triathlon, I started coaching triathletes, and I would say, if you're missing your Sunday with your family just to get a long ride in, then you need to look at your relationship with triathlon, right? Like, so there, you can take anything too far.
Yeah.
And you have to be mindful of that, because I think back to your sort of something we talked about in the beginning, I think one thing that draws a lot of folks in recovery to CrossFit is it's filling a bit of that void that's left by the behaviors they used to do, by having a new focus, something to become a student of, something to go deep into. And when you go deep, you can go too deep sometimes.
Yeah, and I think what you said is really true, and something that my partner and I and our company in general promotes. It's like, hey, get outside the box too, right? Like, you start CrossFit, and you're like, oh, workouts have to be barbells, and they can only happen inside. Well, I live in Colorado, or you can go for a nice hike or a swim if you're in a warm state, or in Boston. I don't know what you guys do in Boston, but you can do something
Shovel
outdoors, right?
snow. Yeah.
Shovels, yeah, but it snowed yesterday for us here, so you're not
Oh,
missing much here in Colorado. And I think, as you were saying that, I love that, right? Sure, it can become too much, but it's the difference is it's providing that intrinsic love for yourself. And I mean, I think everyone that does CrossFit has that moment when they're done with the workout. It's like you can't help but feel good, right? Like, whether it's the dopamine or endorphins or whatnot, it's like, man, like, I just feel so much better. Like, and that's what our company, best hour of their day. We people sometimes misconstrue it. It's like, look, I hope the time with your daughter or your family is better than your time at the gym. But the gym is what's making your time with your family better, because ultimately you love yourself more, and you can't love others until you love yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know, is that true? I just said that. Is that
Yeah.
true, Scott?
No, I agree with you. And I think what is special about CrossFit is like built into it is the community aspect.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. And I think,
I would say when I was racing triathlon, I had days where I was like in my own head by myself, 6 hours on the bike out there hammering, getting my miles, keeping my heart rate right where it had to be. And, and when I found CrossFit, I could go into the gym and I could still have my own goals and set those sort of benchmarks or whatever I'm aspiring to. But I'm doing it side by side with someone. You and I are facing the greater adversity of the workout together. And in that, we build a bond as friends. And so, the workout's amazing, but that little fist bump or the high five at the end is the real magic. And I
mhm.
think that's also the magic of the Phoenix.
Yeah, and I don't, I've never been to a meeting, but I would imagine there's a tremendous amount of overlap between what happens at an AA meeting or an NA meeting, or whatever the addiction is, right? And CrossFit, it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you show up and you get a sponsor, right? And
Yep.
it's like same at an affiliate. Maybe it's a coach or maybe it's a member that kind of, with Best Hour, we promote an ambassador program. I know you get coins every so
Mm-hmm.
often, which some of our better affiliates do
Yep.
as well. Whether it's a coin or a committed club. So I think there's a tremendous amount of overlap there. Hearing this, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but as far as the Phoenix goes and programs, do CrossFits tend to be the best? Are we the best when it comes to our relationship with the Phoenix? I would imagine there's more community at a CrossFit than most yoga studios or triathlon clubs or rock climbing gyms. So you can
Yeah.
say, if you don't want to say it, just wink once and we will
Yeah.
move
Yeah.
on.
No, I would say I would say there's something inherently sort of special about our programs and affiliates. So I would say like the Phoenix, has still has all those other activities. We do music now. We've brought in all these
Oh,
different sort of ways people can come together and support each other in recovery. Any meaningful activity can be a Phoenix event, but the special part about CrossFit and CrossFit affiliates that bring the Phoenix program in is that they already get the importance of community. They are a community. They're there for each other. I don't know how many times I've seen a fundraiser for an affiliate that had a fire and everybody jumps on the GoFundMe and they pay off all the equipment and buy them new stuff overnight. So it's that kind of tribe feel that is the magic of Phoenix in the CrossFit space, is that we know that being in that space together is as important sometimes as the physical adaptation from the workout of the day.
so walk me through it. You started recovery, the recovery process. I know for many people, it's not like the first time they go for it. It's
Yeah,
their
yeah,
final endeavor. Was
yeah.
it for you? Was it one and this is it for 25 years, or
Well, I
were
would
there
say
hiccups at?
it was one, if you count a year and a half of trying as one. So, I wouldn't even say
Hey,
I relapsed because I wasn't sober long enough to call it sobriety. I was trying for about a year and a half to quit. And I knew it had sort of hijacked my life, and wanted to live differently and just couldn't figure out how to do it. And I think that's something we also hear in the affiliates and in the CrossFit space is like many times when people get to that front door, they're probing for ways to change their life, and they find a space that creates the container in which that can happen. And that's really what I found in that boxing gym. And so those were the underpinnings of the Phoenix, this idea that we have to create this code of conduct. So it has to be a nurturing and supportive space. You have to adhere to that when you're there. But other than that, it's free. You just have to be 48 hours sober, and you show up. And like I said, it could be a bike ride or it could be a CrossFit workout. But somebody who's leading that has been touched by substance use. Our coaches don't have to be sober, but unfortunately, almost all of us have been touched by it in some way. So sometimes it is a coach in recovery. Sometimes it's somebody who just loves somebody who's struggled. And the thing is, everybody in that room knows why you're there and how you got there. So that common bond connects us already. But what you'll find is rarely are we even talking about addiction. Usually we're talking about, wait a second, how do I, what happens in the snatch from, when I'm pulling the bar from the floor to this magical place that ends up overhead. There's a lot of steps in there that we're all still trying to unlock. And that's what you end up talking about more than what was your drug of choice or what did addiction take away from you. It's what can this activity in this community give back.
So what was your first step towards founding the Phoenix? I mean, you said you found boxing. At what point were you like, hey, I want to make sure more people get the same experience that I'm getting? In 2006, like you said.
Yeah. So I got sober. I was, kind of doing my own thing. I was racing triathlon. I was climbing mountains. I was realizing that a lot of that was really just for me. And I thought, I'd built this group of friends though, that were really special, that would rather, get up at 5 a.m. and climb a mountain than stay out till 5 a.m. partying. And one of those guys was in recovery and the other was a clinical social worker. She had worked in Boston as a clinical social worker. And we started talking as a group, what if we sort of formalized a pathway for people to find us and do this with us? And that was sort of the beginning of the Phoenix. And the name the Phoenix makes perfect sense, right? Because we're all rising from the ashes of something. And we just started offering these free programs. And, the first year we had about 70 people come. And
this was in Boston?
This was actually, we started in Boulder, Colorado is where we were founded. That's why most of the stuff was outdoors. Cause you can just roll out your door in your mountain bike there, but we went from about 70 folks that first year to 16 years later, we'll serve about 100,000 people this year alone.
100,000, meaning 100,000 people take advantage of a Phoenix program.
Yep.
Which also means you've helped 100,000 people with their sobriety.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is what's really incredible is like, as affiliates have been opening their doors and bringing in Phoenix programs, we've been able to expand our footprint into new communities. So it took us 16 years to serve the first 100,000. Now this year alone, we will serve another 100,000 people. So by the end of this year,
I'm sure
it will be 200,000 people served.
Does that include, like, I'm sure at some point, some people are just in sobriety and they now join a gym, or like you're talking fresh faces inside one of your affiliates? Yeah,
fresh faces fresh faces. So I'll say it this way. There's sort of two ways Phoenix is utilized. Like you may come, fall in love with it, start working out with us, kind of unlock some of the knowledge that you need to be empowered into the sport. And then there's a local affiliate and you go there and join that, and that starts to become your tribe. But Phoenix was instrumental in getting you there, or maybe a couple other Phoenix guys join with you and you're not even really coming to our program anymore, but your way of life has transformed. Or you show up and you're there every Wednesday and all of a sudden you're helping the coach warm people up. Then we're helping you get your L1. Next thing you know, you take over the Wednesday class and the coach goes and adds another one on Saturday, So it's like people get really deeply ingrained, or they find their sober friends and then are off and running.
I want to hear more about that because, if you're listening and you're an affiliate owner, I think this is something you should definitely consider. To me, when I found CrossFit, and Coach Glassman was involved, philanthropy, and giving back was always at the top of his priorities. We had CrossFit for Hope back in the day. We were building, places in Kenya, and like you said earlier, you're whether it's a hurricane in Florida or a fire somewhere, like I think if you own an affiliate, it's your duty and obligation to give back in some way.
Hey guys, Nicole Christensen here with Dave Kalina founder of O2. So I own CrossFit Roots in Boulder, Colorado, and over the years we've had a vetting process for anything that we're going to carry in our store. And really our guiding principle has been, I never wanted any of our members to have to say no to something every day that they walked by, like have to resist the urge for like, I'm carrying a paleo brownie or something like that. So there were things that we were just never gonna carry. Like we were never gonna carry Monster Energy and have people say no to that every time. But O2 is definitely different. So one of the reasons is that it's a pure drink. It's natural. It doesn't have sugar, 1 gram of sugar. So Dave, talk to us a little bit about O2.
I mean, that was great.
And, and then also about the deal with Best Hour.
Yeah, so the easiest way to think about O2 is a cleaner, healthier sports drink.
Yes.
And so, like Nicole said, it's only got 1 gram of sugar per can, 15 calories total, and no artificial ingredients. So there's nothing you can't pronounce on the side of the label. Everything's non-GMO approved, which we're really proud of, and it's in a can because single-use plastic sucks. And so that's O2 in a nutshell. It's also twice as efficacious as Gatorade. So we have twice the electrolytes as Gatorade, but again, only 1 gram of sugar. So better for you, healthier, and I know I'm biased, but I think it tastes awesome.
So
too.
you can have electrolytes without sugar.
Totally.
Shocking.
Totally.
Shocking.
Imagine that, right?
Check it out, guys.
And this is a fantastic way to do that. So talk me through it. If someone's listening, they own an affiliate, they're interested in learning more, what are some of the first steps? And we'll drop the link. There's a landing page, correct, where they can go on and do some sort of application.
Yeah, there's an affiliate landing page, and I can kind of walk you through how it works. So
yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, so if you or some of your members in your gym or you as a coach have some loved ones who've been touched by this, you can raise your hand to volunteer to bring Phoenix to your space. And what often happens is sort of off-peak hours are opened up to Phoenix on a Sunday or Saturday after classes are done or something like that. And sometimes the volunteer coach comes from your member base because you know that guy at the 7:30 a.m. is sober and he's fired up to help others. Or sometimes it's one of your coaches or the owner themselves that volunteers to coach. And you don't have to be in recovery if you've just been touched by this or want to be part of the solution. You can open it up to us. And then what we'll do, if you need this support, is we'll find some sober volunteers to be at the event to be sort of cultural guides. But we train you up in the Phoenix model, which essentially is trying to create psychological safety at events. I think a lot of our folks, including myself, I had been through a lot in life by the time I got into recovery, and gone into a place that was more nurturing was important for me. So one thing I always say is the desired stimulus for today's workout is inclusion. That's guaranteed. Every workout, the desired stimulus is inclusion. So it means if scaling has to be more than just 3 options, so that we can keep that person who's super deconditioned but came from, they're only 2 days in recovery. We'd rather keep them in this space than have them go back to that space. So we need to find a way to wrap them up and pull them in with love to the community. So basically those affiliates or coaches that want to help, you go to an affiliate landing page. It kind of walks you through a track of how you want to engage, whether you want to coach or you want one of our coaches to coach, and you're just opening the building to us. And we train you up in the model, and you're off and running. And then we start to hype it up on our mobile app, which is a pretty robust sort of digital platform where you can find Phoenix anywhere in the country. So we went from starting in Boulder, Colorado to now I think 42 states and about 150 communities.
And how many of the 150 are CrossFit affiliates?
150 communities. And within those over 100 affiliates have opened their doors to us.
So over 100 CrossFit affiliates. And so walking through what that looks like on a practical level, on a day-to-day, how many classes do most of your affiliates put on a week?
I would say most just do one. Because, obviously the calendar and the time slots are are also where they make some money, but ones that are really bought in will open up other opportunities too. Like sometimes we've had folks say that if you're a regular attendee of the Sunday class, you can just come to whatever classes during the week. It's like we've had guys that sort of start to help out cleaning the gym, and then they get their L1, and then maybe they're coaching a couple classes and that's covering their membership, or there's all these ways that people get more deeply integrated into that community once they fall in love with CrossFit. But most of them, it's one class a week, and it's often in a sort of off-peak hours.
Gotcha. So, and if they're offering it, do the classes have to be unique for the Phoenix? In other words, they can't say, hey, our 5 o'clock standard class is open.
They can do that, but they would just have to sort of be willing to have
Floor
the circle
space,
up.
right?
Yeah, have the circle up at the beginning that we do. But what we find is actually affiliate owners often realize how many people are in recovery in their gym already. Because once the Phoenix thing hits the calendar and there's a few posters up in the gym and the QR code for the app, they realize like, hey, those couple guys from the 5 a.m. and that person from the 6 p.m. are, they're in recovery, and so is their spouse, so it enhances the community overall, I believe.
So when you say what goes on pre-class that's unique for those classes?
Yeah, sort of. We do a circle up, and really it's sort of like, and maybe some affiliates do this kind of thing too, but it's sort of a circle up icebreaker. We kind of go around so people get to know each other a little bit. It's often meant to bring some levity to it, and just kind of, it's a little disarming, right? You just sort of like settle in, realize like, oh, I'm accepted here. And then we go over our sort of ethos, which essentially is we're here to lift each other up. Anything outside of that isn't really welcome. Not like you get kicked out for it, but it's a handrail, like so that we can say, hey, do you see how that could have been upsetting or hurtful or whatever you said to that person? We'd ask you not to do that. This is supposed to be a supportive space. Rarely do we have to kind of go to that place, but just by setting the handrail, it starts to frame the culture we want at the Phoenix event. And then it's pretty much like a class, right? We introduce the workout, we introduce scaling. We do work with our coaches a lot on accessibility, so that scaling often goes a few layers deeper at a Phoenix class. I mean, you've probably been to a class where they're like, oh, here's the 2 things you can do to scale this. And CrossFit's infinitely scalable, but only if we actually scale it. So, we really work with coaches on inclusivity and accessibility to the class.
Well, and what you kind of laid out as the pre-class ritual, if you will, is something like you said, many affiliates are doing anyway. And if you're not, it's not so long as it doesn't take up, sounds like it doesn't take more than 2 minutes. It can be part of your whiteboard brief.
Yeah, exactly. And you can even have it be part of the workout. It's like you have this end of the gym is for tea drinkers. This end of the gym's for coffee drinkers. Go. Like everybody sprints down and back and runs a suicide, and like just fun stuff like that we do to, get people breathing and sweating a bit.
Do you have the data for what percentage of the people that show up for a Phoenix class ultimately join an affiliate?
I don't. It would be interesting. That's something we could start tracking and would be valuable, I think. It's not the end goal, but it definitely happens.
No, but for an affiliate perspective, obviously, like I said, you should be giving back without expectation. But I would find it highly unlikely if you do something like this, it doesn't come back to benefit the gym, whether it's the people that are attending those classes have a significant other or a friend or family member that wants to support them, and they wind up joining, or ultimately, like you said, if you're offering 1 a week, if you're doing a good job, that person wants to come more than once a week.
Yeah, and that's what often happens. And I think by partnering with Phoenix, there's something unique that can happen where, so in the early days of Phoenix, one of our revenue sort of models was to do paid health and wellness programming for treatment centers. But as we've gotten to scale, we don't focus on that at the moment because we're just, growing as quickly as we can. but we can partner with affiliate owners to unlock that opportunity. So say you're letting Phoenix in and we're really building a rapport. And then you say, you know what, there's 2 treatment centers up the road. And I imagine that they'd be excited about this. We can help you sort of unlock how you might contract with them for them to bring their folks into your gym, because it's mutually beneficial for Phoenix, right? Like if they're starting to bring a van load of folks in at noon and they're getting some fitness while they're under the care of that treatment program, when they come out, they're going to come to the Phoenix class because they know that exists there. And beyond treatment, they're staying connected to your affiliate, which helps us and the affiliate owner.
Do you have information? What if someone attends a Phoenix class? I'm sure you don't have as much like split up like at any affiliate, I guess we would call it, right? How much more likely are they to stay sober than someone that doesn't?
Yeah. So if you're what we consider active, which is 3 times in 3 months, you come to Phoenix. So it's not even that. It's a pretty low.
That's
bar.
it.
Yeah.
Once a month they hit a workout. That's the program I need.
We had to have some trigger where we started to measure, and that's what we picked as sort of our magic number. Most of those folks come a lot more than 3 times a month. But your recovery outcomes go way up, to the point where 86% of folks that are active members at Phoenix, stay sober at 3 and 6 months. And that like blows away the formal treatment metrics. Just something about being in that supportive community and finding a sense of citizenship to that group and healing some of those self-esteem wounds and goal setting about the activity it's really magical what happens for folks.
Yeah. And I think, hearing you talk about that, a lot of, affiliate owners will if you asked, hey, why'd you open? Well, I want to help people, and it's like, okay, cool. We help people lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, PR their snatch. Great. This is like, you're helping people change their lives. It's beyond just, helping someone lose 100 pounds is amazing. Get off type 2 diabetes medication, all that stuff. But this is like truly, truly impact. How would someone find the Phoenix if they were considering sobriety or in sobriety and wanted to check out an affiliate, be it CrossFit, rock climbing, any of those?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to thephoenix.org to kind of just learn generally more about us. But the best way, honestly, is to go to the App Store and get the Phoenix app. It just says the Phoenix.
Oh, you got an app now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Phoenix, a sober community is what will pop up, and you'll see this big red bird.
That's
here.
The shirt that I was telling you. There's a guy here. He's always rocking that shirt. I like that shirt.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a good shirt for like breaking down stigma, It's just by being sort of loud and proud about recovery, because often it's something we keep in the shadows, and that perpetuates the shame that often leads to relapse. So I think it's important to just rock it, But that's the logo you'll see in the App Store, and you can pull it down, and then there's a geolocator on there, so it'll tell you any Phoenix events around you. And if you don't see,
and that's like specifically the classes that are happening. So not necessarily, hey, this is an affiliate, but at 2:00 in Boulder or Boston, there's a class happening at this place.
Yep, that's the class schedule. And then there's a CrossFit group inside of the app. So once you jump in there and be like, hey, man, I'm in Detroit and I want to go. If we don't have a class near you, I'm sure somebody in there will know an affiliate near you and then get you plugged in. And that's sort of how it unfolds from there.
What's the word sober mean? Because I see, I hear people using the word sober when it's like, hey, I'm sober, and infamously it's like Sober October, right? For Joe Rogan fans. Can you, as someone who's truly sober for 25 years now, is that annoying to you?
No, not at all. I mean, I think it's all, you even hear about like sober curious movement, where people are like trying it out. And, I think that to me, sober means like clear-minded and present, right? Like I'm not sort of polluting my experience anymore by having drugs and alcohol on board. And not that makes me better than anybody else. I still have a whole bunch of things I'm trying to resolve in my life and do better at and whatnot. But what it allows me to do is show up and really be present the challenge is I'm really present also for the hard stuff, you know, like there's no place to run and numb and like try to take the edge off some of those feelings. So I always say when you get into recovery, you know, the good stuff and the great stuff is even better. And the hard stuff can be even harder sometimes because you're just facing it in this more raw way. But ultimately I believe that's the way through is to really be present and be able to process.
Yeah, don't you think too many people, when there's a struggle in their life, that's like they try to avoid it, whether through drugs and alcohol or through other things, where really the best thing you could do, it's kind of like in the CrossFit terms, like attacking your weaknesses. There's more to be gained by attacking your weakness headlong than by working on your strength. Yeah. And, you know, whether you're sober or not, I think that's sound advice. Yeah, you know, wouldn't want to feel guilty wearing a sober shirt if you're not sober, but like you're saying, it's clear minded. So that's I like that a lot.
And I'll add to that too, that's one reason you only have to be 48 hours sober to come to Phoenix is like you might come and then you might go out on a Saturday night and have a drink, but just as an ally and supporter to be there on Friday night, it enhances the overall community because you're starting to see people in recovery and realize like, hey, maybe some of the stigma I have isn't true. But me as someone in recovery, I'm like, people care about me and us enough to be here and to be part of helping lift us. And I think that's the real magic, right? Because then I'm going to then leave and be there and show up to help lift somebody else. You know, I think it's a special dynamic to have supporters and allies there too.
So would you say putting a class on like a Sunday morning would be, and maybe that's just me being naive. Like I'm sure if you're in sobriety, it doesn't matter what day it is, right? But I'm thinking like most people are going out Friday and Saturday. So if we do Sunday morning, now I'm forcing you to stay sober on the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, that could be the hack, right? If you're trying to get, you know, if you got to have 48 hours, then there goes your weekend if it's a Sunday class. But also, you know, some of those off-peak hours are also times that are great for us. So like Friday evening, Saturday night, not many people are going to hit a CrossFit class on Saturday night, but Phoenix folks will. So to have that opportunity is special.
I'm almost certain if an affiliate decides to get involved, they will not realize currently how many people they have in recovery. But as soon as they put it out there, I bet you they come out of the woodworks and they're like, oh, this is awesome that you're doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's just such a great idea for affiliates to, like, you know, give back or, you know, celebrate the people around them.
Yeah, I think you're on point with that, is that, you know, once you start talking about this and you bring it into the light, you'll realize how many people around you have been touched by it. And even just wearing this shirt, you know, walking through an airport, somebody almost always says, hey man, I got 3 years. That's awesome. You know, or whatever.
Do you brag about your 25 years though? Are you like obnoxious about it? Like, hey, cool, but I got 25. Is that a thing in the sober world?
No, not at all. Some people do, but I feel like it just puts undue pressure on yourself. It's like telling everyone what your 1 rep max is. It's like, you better keep it up there because one day they're going to
brag about my brand time.
Yeah, because then they're going to see you, you know, hit 75% of that and barely lift it. And you're like, I don't know about that. So I don't like I like stay humble instead of be humbled.
Gotcha. I like that. Stay humble, stay hungry. 25 years in, is it still a day-to-day thing like they talk about?
For me, it has changed in a way that because my whole support network and my community is so connected to this now with my work, and my wife's in recovery. And so our son is like, you know, he's growing up seeing us drinking LaCroix all day as opposed to beers or whatever. So, you know, I think it's just my life is so different. Where it does come up for me is when I'm shocked by the realities of life, right? Like I lost my mom and my dad within essentially like a year. And when that happened, I don't even think about turning to a drink or a drug because my Phoenix community scooped me up with love, right? That I'm there for them some days, but some days Phoenix is there for me too. And they're like, we did a big memorial workout to my mom, right? I'm a mess and crying during the whole thing. But what was so special is there's a bunch of other Phoenix folks there, patting me on the back there for me on that day. And so I don't have to go back to that old way of coping with that stuff, which, if that happened 25 years ago, I don't know what would have happened. So I think it's just having that community is everything.
I know you probably can't speak on this because it's different for everyone, but how long does it typically take someone to make that change, right? Where it's like my typical coping mechanism would be X. Now it's like you talked about, like sit down and deal with it and work through it emotionally and mentally. How long? It's different for everyone, right? But
yeah,
how long was that for you?
It's interesting because I think that part is a journey, I think of it, it's very much like CrossFit to me. Like when I found CrossFit, somebody recommended that Phoenix start doing it. And I'm like, this sounds kind of crazy. And I went and I took a L1 just because I was already a coach and a bunch of other things. So I'm like, I'm going to go.
Before you did CrossFit, you took the L1?
Yeah, because I was like, I want to see what their coaches learn because that'll tell me if it's right for our community and our culture.
Where'd you do that?
In Denver. It was with Matt Chan back in the day. We did when they were just still doing Fran in the.
Yeah. So you've been at it for a while.
Yeah, and I was like, "What's Fran?" And everybody was laughing at me. I was like, I was about to.
So your first CrossFit workout was at your level 1?
Yeah, essentially.
That's awesome.
I took like one class somewhere just so I had some awareness, but didn't know what Fran was. But afterward, I realized how special it was going to be for Phoenix. But then, if going back to sort of what we were talking about, like I got super into it, right? And I'm like wearing knee sleeves all the time and whatever, and I'm pre-workout and all this stuff, and trying to get my lifts up incrementally, and trying to PR every day, and all that stuff, and I had to be in that place for a while, and then you realize that it's deeper than that, and there's like working on your weaknesses, rounding out all the different disciplines within it, and so I evolved in my own journey. And then you realize like giving it back to other people is really special. So then I started, got my L2, and, it's like, it's the same thing for a Phoenix person who comes in. Like you may come in and the workout's actually what's keeping you sober today, but you realize over time, it's the people around you that are cheering for you that are the actual magic.
I don't often like to quote Dave Matthews on these podcasts, but he says it's not where, but who you're with.
Yeah,
that really matters. So I think that's a good summation of an affiliate, right? It doesn't matter where you are in the world. It doesn't matter what the workout is. It's that you can show up at any of the 15,000 affiliates, and you've got a group of support there. That's awesome that you dug into it like that. Do you have any intentions of taking your level 3?
I don't know. I feel like I got a mercy pass on my L2 because I was like, I don't coach much anymore because I'm always, fundraising and helping Phoenix grow. And so I was always the guy they put in the middle for the sumo deadlift high pull. Like, I was like,
don't worry, I still am. I still am too. Don't you worry.
This is rough. But one thing I wanted to share that I think is just cool is that one time I was talking to Greg Glassman, a couple years back, and he said to me, he's like, what I have realized, and I asked him what it was. He said, a lot of people come up to me and say, like, CrossFit changed my life. But the people that say CrossFit saved my life are the people in recovery. And I think about that a lot, like how powerful that transformation can be. So like, the same way that affiliate owners and coaches are changing lives every day, with working with the Phoenix and bringing folks in recovery in, you could be saving lives every day, which I think is just powerful.
I love it. Download the app in the App Store. Consider becoming an affiliate. We will make sure that link is available in the show notes. And then also, like you mentioned, if you don't own an affiliate or you're not ready to offer Phoenix classes, you can simply donate. I think I saw on your site it takes just over $1 to help someone in recovery for a workout.
Yeah.
Right? So every dollar you donate helps someone stay in recovery. And I think it's one of those things at the level ones we're like, hey, is anyone does anyone know someone dealing with chronic disease? And almost everyone will raise, whether it's type 2 diabetes, et cetera. And I think the same is probably true when it comes to addiction, right? We all have been impacted by it, whether it's directly or indirectly. So I think, if it's a great way to give back, and it's also a very inexpensive way if you're an affiliate owner, you know, to give back. Like you mentioned, you probably have someone at your affiliate willing to volunteer for that 1 hour a week, 2 hours, a week, whatever that looks like. So I think really as an affiliate owner, there's no excuse. There's no excuse not to be a part of it. Shout out. We were talking before we got online. Megan, I still call her Megan Burns, but Megan Bakhtiari, Josh Murphy, and all. We've helped quite a few of your employees go through their level 1 and level 2, and it's always awesome. They're always some of the best there because, like you said, CrossFit didn't change their life; it saved their life, and I think they're there because they want to give back to other people. So
absolutely, thanks for helping them on their journey too. It empowers them into being a change maker, and reaching a lot of people. So grateful for that.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely look forward to everything you guys got going on. Also, shout out to my man John. You know John?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's always reaching out. So yeah, as we're talking, it's like all the people I've interacted with over the years, come back. But it's been really great chatting with you, Scott. And I hope if you guys are listening, it inspired or motivated you to be a part of the Phoenix.
And thanks for sharing about it and having a great conversation today. And we'll have to grab a workout sometime and I'll get you some Phoenix gear.
Let's do it.